This is just a quick video tutorial on how to get up and running with Jitsi Meet. Jitsi Meet is the secure open platform video conferencing system that I've set up for my clients to use while everybody's kind of stuck working from home. So to get yourself up and running, what you're going to want to do is open a web browser and navigate to jitsi.ctslive.net right up here. And once you arrive, you're going to come up to this page here, and if this is the first time you visited the page, what you need to do is you need to click over here on this gear, and we're going to set up our profile. So if we click on the gear, first page it's going to take you in here to is going to let you select your camera. As you can see, I've already got mine set up, but if you pull this list down, you'll see a list of available webcams, assuming you have one. The second thing you'll set here is your microphone, and again, the default microphone that it sees should be up and running, and you can see that mine is because it's kind of bouncing around. That shows you your audio levels as it's catching what I'm saying here. Next one there would be the default output, and that's actually right down here. That's the audio. You can kind of hear the audio sound. It lets me know that it is up and running, and it'll come through my default speakers. The next tab along the top here is your profile, and this is kind of important because what we're going to set here is your name, and this will display next to you, here on the side when you're up and running in a video conference. Otherwise, it'll assign a random name to you. Your email address over here is not actually strictly necessary. This is running through a service called Gravatar. Which is actually a free service. You can go there and sign up if that's something you want to do. It just lets you put a picture up, like a profile picture, or like a little icon of yourself in case your video isn't working, or if you only have a microphone and you don't have video, for instance. So if you have a Gravatar or you're interested in having that, you can just go sign up at gravatar.com and you just put your email address in there. But the most important thing is just your name, somewhat that people can see who they're talking to. This last tab here actually just lets you change the language of the website, so you don't really need to worry about this. You can ignore that. So again, that's devices. You're going to want to set your camera, double check that your microphone's up and running, and then double check your audio output and go ahead and hit OK. Once we've got that up and running, we're ready to actually start up a meeting. And as you can see, I've already had a couple on mine, so these show here. You probably won't see anything down below here since you don't have a recent meeting, but if we want to start one, all we have to do is actually click on here, and we're going to type in the name. Before we do that, though, let's talk about that just briefly. The name of your meeting is going to end up creating a link that you're going to share with the people that you're actually trying to conference with, and so that'll show up here. So if I were to do test meeting like I did before, what we'll end up with would be jitsi.ctslive.net/test meeting or something similar. And so kind of give a little bit of consideration to that name. You would want it to be something not too difficult to type in case people are having to type it by hand, but on the flip side, it should be something specific to you. So if you're running a specific meeting for your own personal use, if you do something very generic like just meeting, other people might try to connect to that same meeting, and although it'll be secured after I show you how, it can cause a little bit of trouble, so you want to definitely use a unique name for your meeting. You can see it's kind of generating funny little unique names here, and you can actually use these. You don't have to type something creative. You could just hit go, and it'll use these random names that it's doing, but I like to use my own, so I'm going to do test meeting 2, and we're going to go ahead and hit go, and what that'll do is that'll launch the meeting. And so once I'm up and running, this brings me into the next kind of secure location, and what it's saying here is that it's waiting for the host. So I'm technically in a meeting, but nobody can come in or out of this meeting yet because it's not actually live, and these are where the host accounts come in. So most of you at this point probably have a host account that I've given you. If you don't for some reason, or you don't know what your password is, go ahead and reach out to me, and I'll get that up and running to show you what to do. But assuming you are a host and you're ready to get up and running with this, you're going to go ahead and click the I am the host button, and it's going to want your username, which in my case is CTS Live. It's going to want your password, which is the one that I set up for you, and you're going to go ahead and hit OK. And once you do that, you'll kind of get up and running, and your session is now running. Now, there's a couple more things that we want to do in here to kind of make sure that this is all functional and working the way we need it to be. First thing, and kind of most important thing, is we want to add a password to our meeting, because right now anybody who has this link that's down here, you can see it in the corner here, jitsi.ctslive.net/testmeeting2, could technically join this meeting. So until we add a password, it's not really safe from people just randomly stopping by. So I'm going to hit add password here, and I'm just going to type in CTS123 and press enter on my keyboard there. Oops, bring that back up. Add password CTS123 and enter, and now I have a password on my meeting, and so now nobody will be able to actually join this meeting without having that password, and that's really important, like I said, for security. All the data is encrypted in transit, but that won't do you any good if people can just pop open the meeting and see what you're doing. So you want to make sure you do that. So if that window doesn't pop open automatically, you're going to hit the I down here for information, and that's where you see that. Importantly, this is also where the link for your meeting is, and this is what you're going to want to send to people. So once you're up and running with your video conference, you're going to actually copy this link, and you can hit that button right there to copy, or you can hit copy down here, and that's going to copy that onto your clipboard. And you can email that to people, you can text it to them, you can get it to them however you need to. But like I said, the links are pretty straightforward. It's based on the name that you used when you created your meeting. And so as long as you use something pretty straightforward, then it's pretty easy to do. So we're going to jump down to some of the controls down here. If you look towards the bottom here, we've got kind of 1, 2, and 3 major controls on this end. So the first one here mutes or unmutes your microphone, and that's just a toggle switch. So off and on. Same thing with the camera. We can toggle the camera on and off. So if I toggle this off, this is where that avatar comes in. Like I was saying, if you have an icon or an avatar, you can set that up and it shows something in case you decide you want to turn your video off. And of course, this last one is just hanging up. It ends the meeting. And so if you're the host of the meeting and you press that, that will disconnect everybody. But if you're not the host, then that would just, if you were in there as a viewer or as a participant, you can just leave. You can come and go by exiting, or by ending your call there. You, of course, can also just close out of the window here, but that'll close everything else you have open. Last one's down here on this side. If you show down here, this is kind of meant for meetings. You got a couple of options here. So we've got share screen, and share screen I'm not going to click. Just shares everything that's currently open on your computer desktop. And so you do want to be cautious with that one, because if you have confidential information or anything up there that you don't want people seeing, you should probably avoid clicking this one. But it can be actually very useful if you're doing training, or if you're trying to work with people remotely, especially if you're trying to troubleshoot some sort of an issue and you want them to be able to see what it is that you're seeing, or if you're trying to show someone how to do something, you can click on that and it will show just the screen that's currently up on yours, but that does show all windows, everything that's currently open on your screen. Raise hand kind of just gives a little alert, and you can see it's real tiny. I kind of find this to be pretty subtle. It is up there, and so you can see I've raised my hand, but unless you're paying pretty close attention, people are probably unlikely to see that. I think that's more meant for larger meetings, if you have a huge number of people or a large number of people in a single group that can be there. And then last, of course, there is a chat function, and if you hit this last button here, you can say, hello. And this again is where it becomes real important that you put your name into your profile, because if you don't, then when other people say something back to you, what's going to happen is that it's just going to say some random name. It'll say fellow Jitster or something random. And so you do want to make sure that your name did go into there in order to be able to make sense if you guys are in chat for some reason. So I'm going to close chat down and turn my camera back off. The last option here down at the bottom is this guy, and this is the field of view. So you got a couple of options here. It's a little tough to see because I don't have anyone else currently connected. But what this will do is this will switch between a specific single large camera. Turn my camera back on again so you can kind of see. And so if you're doing kind of a one-on-one meeting, the large camera can be nice because this will get you connected directly with a specific person where you get kind of the full screen. But this one is really kind of better for multiple people, especially if you have lots of different windows, because it'll show, in small boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, however many people are in across the field there, and you'll be able to see all of the various people who are in the meeting. So turn the camera back off again here. We got a few more kind of controls under here. So, this again, you can adjust that profile information from in here. And so if you needed to, after the fact, if you forgot to do this before you signed in, you can do that. You can also sign out your authentication, which you probably won't want to do that, but that is where you would do that if you needed to. You can also manage your video quality. If you're having connection problems, if it seems like it's running really slow, and especially if the audio seems like it's having trouble, you might want to open this and reduce the quality on this. If you drop this all the way down to the lowest setting, that will, of course, use much less bandwidth, but of course the video quality will go down pretty drastically. You'll become, a little bit more kind of jerky, or even just a little bit more blurry, that kind of a thing. Down here as well, we can switch to a full screen view, and that just makes, the entire window take up your entire computer screen, obviously. We're obviously not going to share YouTube videos here unless you wanted to, in which case, more power to you. Blur the background is an interesting feature. I've noticed it kind of slows down the connection on the video, but what that does is it can give you an element of privacy. I'm going to turn that on for a moment here. You see it'll kind of go black and then it'll come back up. And the idea here is just, if you've got other things in the room that you don't want people seeing, or you just have a messy office like I currently do, then you might want to turn that on just so that it's a little less obvious what's going on behind you there. And turn that back off. settings, mute, speaker stats, etc. So the rest of these, if we go into the settings, this is the same settings as before. So all these kind of loop back to themselves, and then mute everyone. Now this one's kind of useful if you guys are talking and you are the host of the account. If you hit mute everyone, you'll see what this does is once muted, you won't be able to unmute them. They will have to unmute themselves. And that's the exact same button as this one here. So basically, you're sending a command as the host out to go, everybody needs to be quiet for a moment, especially useful in presentations, things of that kind. And so you can do that. And then if they needed to talk again, they'll have to remember to unmute themselves. And so that'll show up down here like that. So that's pretty much it, guys. The shortcuts down at the bottom here will just give you some kind of keyboard shortcuts that go through quick links for all the stuff that we just did with the mouse. So you can use keystrokes to do that on the keyboard if you prefer, but it's pretty straightforward to just click on it. And I think that's about it. So, let's get started. And if anybody has any problems, you know how to get in touch with me.